Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this week's episode of the Sensei Playbook podcast, marketing strategy for the dealer world so you can do less and make a whole lot more. We have a great guest in store for you today. We have Jody Devere of AskPatty.com. This woman is amazing. She is all about differentiation. She's all about beginning with the end in mind. She's all about impact. She seeks to serve. If you ain't different, you're dead. And she has her why clearly defined in everything she does. The greater the resistance, the greater the breakthrough. Everything I've said right now is going to make sense. And just as soon as you listen or watch this episode, I promise this one's going to be bookmarked. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Sensei Playbook, the ultimate how-to podcast for growing and amplifying your brand within the digital world's 3-second landscape. Join Bill Courtwright and Chris Snellgrove as they discuss the right tools and strategies for building the best online marketing strategy for your business. Tune in to leading business leaders who share information and impart inspiration on providing smooth customer experience and successfully scaling your venture. This is your chance to achieve rapid growth in the highly competitive online market. Let's get this episode started with your hosts, Bill and Chris.
So, Jody, it's been a minute since we had a chance to share space. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. It's going to be a pleasure. We plan to be together for the next 30 or 45 minutes or so. But to kind of reconnect, not only Chris, myself, and yourself, but all of our listeners and viewers, what's been going on for the last 10 or 15 years with you and Ask Patty?
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot to talk about. So I'll try and keep it to bullet points. As you know, we're leaders in the women's market and continue to be so. And the core of Ask Patty, of course, is our certified female-friendly program, which helps automotive retail professionals, both in service and sales and marketing, communicate more effectively with women consumers. We also have, on top of that, or really in tandem with that, we believe hiring more women employees and developing them into leadership positions also helps accomplish some of that. So we've been hard at work on that. I did found another company in 2015, the Women in Automotive, which I headed up along with Christine Roman for 8 years. I retired from that 2 years ago, actually, to really focus more on Ask Patty and what we're doing here. And I'm trying to keep this brief and to develop more, to address some of the needs that Ask Patty focused just on the women's market was not able to do, which is developing better leadership styles, a better workforce, maintaining, which is always a challenge, and also developing overall a better culture that's more inclusive. Broadening your horizons in all of those ways helps companies grow. So that's, I think, the evolution that we started with basically is the women's market was the tip of the iceberg. And now in year 18, wow, 18 years.
Unbelievable.
We're working on more fronts in helping automotive retail companies. And we also work with automakers and quite a bit with the automotive aftermarket. And they all have similar challenges. So it's been an exciting 15 years for sure.
Sounds like it.
I have a question about the beginning. The name, Ask Patty. What's the story behind the name? Why isn't it Ask Jody?
You know, I have been asked that question thousands of times over the years, and it was so random. They wanted to do Ask Jody. I went, no way, because back then in my background, if you put your name as part of the company title, it's really hard to sell it, which I'm not selling it, but that was sort of my thinking. So it was really a very random choice. Coincidentally, at that time, the website ask.com was huge. And that actually helped us to have the word ask. And the other piece of Ask Patty is Patty, the iconic Patty, and you've seen her all over our branding. No one was doing that using a cartoonish icon. Now it's very popular. And so it helped us stand out.
That's awesome.
I think those were the reasons. It's not Ask Jody, and it's really stuck.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Absolutely. So what was it that, what would you say provided the impetus, or when did the inspiration strike, however many years ago, that, you know what, women are just not represented in the way that you or your team felt was appropriate? And, you know, it sounds like it was a calling, but exactly what call did you respond to?
So I actually came into automotive in 2000, so 24 years now. And I was consulting with automotive companies. And at one of those companies, they wanted me, I was helping different companies along different lines, because at that point, I was a very competent and experienced entrepreneur. And they wanted to have a brand representative to help differentiate them. And I talked them into sponsoring a young female NASCAR driver. And it really worked, because she became, their brand representative, and we were taking dealers to the races. She was it's not called that anymore, but she was in the truck series. Her name was Deborah Renshaw. And it was through observation that I saw how challenged she was. Very difficult to get sponsorship as a woman NASCAR driver. Still is. And females in motorsports had a lot of the same challenges as women working in dealerships at that time. And in the audience, there has been growth. And I started observing that, and also observing, because we had a piece of Ask Patty that was launched later to provide automotive advice for women. And this millions of women were coming to have woman-on-woman advice, providing a lot of things I don't want to talk about of their experiences working with automotive retail professionals. And what I observed was there was a huge gap of communication. The retailers thought they had it all together. The women didn't. And there was this huge gap. And so that became my mission, to solve the gap in communication. And so that's where Ask Patty came, the impetus came from. And that's where most success has come from, is you see a problem that's not being solved, and you find a worthy solution.
That's right.
For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. Chris talks about all the time, find a need and fill it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've seen a lot of growth around that, but I still, I believe there's still a lot of room for growth in this area in the automotive industry overall. And again, our focus has widened, and I do believe hiring more women and putting them in leadership positions in automotive retail is helping, and more of that needs to be done, and to learn how to do that. It's still a man's world. And there was just a report recently that says that women working in automotive retail are still making 71 cents on the dollar of the guys in the same positions. So we still have a lot of challenges, but I never get discouraged, because incremental growth makes me happy.
Progress.
Absolutely. Were there any specific moments that you can look back upon? You talked about 24 years in the business, obviously the evolution, the origin story that is Ask Patty. But can you think back to any milestones or specific seminal moments that happened along the way that you look back on and maybe didn't realize just how important of an event that was until you had time to look back and reflect?
So many. I have a scrapbook, and I keep, there were many articles and many, Ask Patty was featured on the front page of the business section of the New York Times.
Wow.
And I got copies. And one of those copies is in my living trust. They're supposed to throw it in with me. That was a monumental moment, not just for Patty, but for me personally. And being so well known, I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting the notoriety. And I had to, it was an eye-opening experience to become the face of Ask Patty and to learn how to be that. There's no lessons given. And in fact, it was sort of a new thing back then, because remember, social media, I started right when social media was taking off. And so I had to kind of learn as I went to be that spokesperson. And I was being interviewed a lot. I still am. Here we are today.
That's right.
And that was monumental. And I just want to say that it was a soul searching time for me, because I wasn't expecting that. I'm a technologist, basically. I'm the behind the scenes girl. To become that visible was a little uncomfortable for me, and I had to grow into those shoes. Now I'm very comfortable doing that. But it was a process. That's one thing. The other was coming to terms with the resistance that what I do created. There has been resistance and to overcome that and to become diplomatic and to learn how to use language to help people understand and to push through their resistance. That was a monumental thing. And that took some time too, to learn. I think you can rub people the wrong way, even with the best solution, if you don't speak in the language they need to hear. That was a monumental piece. It's been such a wonderful ride for me. I can't really talk about any negatives. Here we are 18 years later. I'm still going strong. My biggest challenge is that, as I mentioned to you earlier, Bill, I started this company when I was 50, and it's 18 years old, and I'm still going strong. If I'm ever going to be able to retire, because there's still so much room for Ask Patty in our industry.
Yeah. Well, how has the brand, the company, evolved over the past 18 years?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hardly hear you.
How has the brand and the company evolved over the past 18 years?
So I think we started off very consumer focused, with Ask Patty being the icon to answer questions from women. And so we're very well known for the certified female friendly program and the branding. And from there, I think we grew into being an expert in social media marketing. We actually do a lot of social work for our clients geared to that market, geared to being inclusive. And there was a lot of learning. So that evolved over time. And then I believe the next big evolution in what we did was incorporating hiring and retaining more women, because we were teaching our clients how to do that. And then, and I'm going to fast forward, at the end of 2019, I decided that we were doing all this and we could certify them in these leadership workforce and culture. And I had a lot of very worthy, talented women around me that wanted to help do that. And so you'll see I have a very high level list of women working with me that developed that and launched that, and it's going well. Because the question that a business person needs to ask themselves from time to time is, what do you want to be known for?
Love it.
And then build products and a brand message of what. So the Ask Patty consumer side kind of, we kind of let her fall asleep a little, although without pre-announcing, Patty's coming back in a new form. We're working on that. But really, I think what we're best at is finding out what the challenges are in relationship to the women's market and inclusivity. And that is a big one. And helping our clients through learning and doing for them. We do a lot for our clients to help them. I have a lot of great testimonials that we took them from here to there. And helping them develop solutions within their own company along these lines. And so we're very focused now on this, what I would call the consultative approach. And I think that's where Ask Patty's headed now.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. You know, you mentioned, what do you want to be known for? And I know Chris was, we were both smiling because that's a big question that we often ask on this podcast is what do you want to be known for? And Chris has an interesting story about where that question came from, but it's really consistent with how you articulated it right there. And again, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? And you know, reputation is a funny thing. You either can't live up to it or you can't live it down. But you know, to the people that have an intentionality about that and kind of, you know, setting a course and with the presence of mind to say, hey, what I want to be known for is, and then essentially reverse engineer through behavior and development and good works, you know, kind of reverse engineer that so that when you look back on your career, you could smile and say, you know what, that didn't happen by accident.
Yeah. And by the way, we teach our clients that, like if they're, and a classic example is, okay, so you go visit their website and all of the photographs, I could do it right now. I could just it's all filled with pictures or just cars. And it's got to be silver, red, black, or blue. That's the color scheme. But I want to sell inclusively and I want to sell to women and I want to develop this whole thing. It's like, well, you got to change your evil ways, baby. You know, you so if that's what you want to be known for, then right then and there, the visual picture that you're giving your customer online today is extraordinarily important. The messaging is important too, but we know how quickly people go visit, you know, they got the attention span of a gnat.
That's right.
So you have to present yourself. So these are some of the things we teach our client, you know, even down to what is their mission statement. Consumers today, and I will say that being more inclusive, that the younger generation of employees and customers also are more alike to the women's market in that they're looking for more than just a transaction. They have been brought up in a different culture than some of us. And so you have to address that and reverse engineer it. Okay, I've got to find out what are they looking for and how can I provide that experience both in my online presence, which is part of your reputation and a major part really, but then in the experience that we're giving them. And it's hard because different parts of the country or different age groups or socioeconomic or, you know, they want something different. So it's not as transactional. It's difficult, but it's doable. And people need to learn how to do that. That's what we do. We're a training company first and foremost, you know, training and consulting. We need to help our clients in the industry learn how to do that to be more successful.
Well said.
That's awesome. I was thinking we might have read the same book. Did you ever read Jeff Henderson's book? What do you want to be known for? No, what you're for.
No, but you should email it to me. I probably should read it.
It's so good. When you said that, I mean, that's the pivotal question that he asked in the book is, what do you want to be known for? And then the follow-up question he said is, what are you known for? And sometimes there's a gap between the two, right?
Yeah.
But when you close that gap, that's where the true magic happens. It's a fascinating book. I'll send you the Do you have Audible? You listen to books
I
on
do.
tape?
I
I'll
do.
send you the Audible. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's a
and
great book.
there's the other piece. I just want to share this that I've had many companies. I started my first company when I was 27, and I've pretty much had my own company all through my career. It was how I solved the gender problem. It's like, well, if I can't go up through the ranks, then I'll just have to have my own business. And I had a few failures, but mostly successful in
What was
owning
the
my own
first one?
company.
What was the first business?
Huh?
What was the first business?
It was called JMAR. And it was a company in high tech buying and selling electronic components. And it did $1 million of business the first year. I was pretty good at that high tech business too. And I was known for something, the queen of memory, because in those days there was a lot of shortages of memory chips and memory cards. And I was able to source those for my customers.
Wow.
That's
Fascinating.
great.
That's cool.
I was a wheeler dealer.
Some things never change.
Some things never change.
Yeah.
But I want to say, and that was very transactional. A lot of relationship building and trust, because we were moving very large volume dollar transactions, blah, blah, blah. But I want to fast forward. One of the things that has made Ask Patty very successful, because I do sit back and look at why is it still going strong at 18 years? Because Ask Patty has a CEO that has a mission. This is more than just transactions for me personally. I really believe Ask Patty and what we're doing has made a difference in the auto industry. It has been very impactful, in my opinion, along these lines. And even if I wasn't doing it and someone said, I'm going to do that too, I believe that there has been a great impact. And it's not so much that I'm proud of that, is that I'm so pleased by that. And that keeps me going, because that's the whole point for me. If it was just about the accolades and success and the money, I don't think I would be sitting here. This has been a real passion and mission, and something much more meaningful for me and my team. We really believe we're making a difference, and something that gets you up in the morning, gets you going.
Absolutely. Start with why.
That's right. So how important are reviews in spreading the word for Ask Patty and within your the companies that you have your membership in?
Very important. They're very important. And statistically, and you probably already know this, I'm saying it to the choir here, women are 4 times more likely to do an online review. Mm-hmm. In fact, rather than telling, let's say, a service advisor about that they had a problem with them, they'll just nod and say, everything's fine. And then run online and just bash that. Yeah. So in terms of women, oh yeah. And the younger generation, who they do everything online. So they're much more likely to too. But I think it's very important for automotive retail, do what they say they're going to do, not only in the sales, but in service. Let's not forget service, because this is where a lot of dealerships lose lifetime customers, because they successfully do a great job in delivering a beautiful new or used vehicle and with all the care. But then in the service department, so both areas are important for women for reputation management.
Yep. Absolutely.
Plus, now that everyone's on social media, go into TikTok and just check out what women say about buying a car. They're practically videotaping the whole thing. She has a lot more influence now to tell not just a friend or two what her experience, but she can really expand her influence by putting a post up. I see them all the time. Even from people in the car business, what a rotten experience they had or a terrible experience. A lot of it isn't necessarily around sales. It's, I would say, more in the service area. I say that emphatically.
Yep. And it's unfortunate because sometimes it, you see women get taken advantage of because they might not know that, certain things about the engine and certain mechanical components of the vehicle.
Well, I always say, and having a lot of experience getting questions from women, it's a twofold problem. Women need to be better educated about basic repair and maintenance. And for goodness sake, could you please read your manual?
Yeah.
I mean, automakers know this. They put it on CD for you. They give you videos. Now you have a website, and and so that language barrier causes problems in communication. So educating women. So I encourage my clients to hold basic car care clinics for women. I just had a client do one over the weekend, and she had like 25 women there, and they ask a lot of those questions, and it helps build that relationship of trust, which is very important for your reputation. But they speak a different language, so somehow you've got to close that gap.
You should open up with a video from, remember in the court scene in My Cousin Vinny when they're trying to get the what was her name? Yeah. She knew
Marissa
more about
Tomei.
Right.
The attorney
Him
was
that
trying
raised
to.
up top dead Senna.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
The ignition timing of the Corvette. So you mentioned, Jody, reviews and how women, your statistic was 4 times more likely to leave a review, and we could probably speculate, but it's not for us to speculate because we've got this wonderful woman leader on the podcast. So in addition to perhaps why there'd be a propensity for a woman to leave a review, what else for the men that might not know, but know they don't know, and are listening or watching in hopes of gleaning something magnanimous, something wonderful, some breakthrough moment in dealing with women, either in the workplace or at home, because I'm paying attention for both. What else can you teach, some men as they go through their sensitivity and awareness training on the Sensei Playbook podcast today? What best practices can you teach?
Learn to ask more questions. One of my quotes is stop selling and telling and start asking. When you ask women questions, anybody actually, but it draws her to you. But when you're telling people, it pushes her away. Note, and this is not true for every woman, but statistically, women are less confrontational than men. So, a man in a similar situation might just get hardball and yell at the service advisor or demand answers, whatever. Typically, she won't do that. And so when you're asking questions, and an easy question is not, and watch her body language, that's part of the sensitivity. If she's tensing up, say, so are you sure everything is okay? I don't want you to leave and feel like you have issues. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have and explain it without talking down to her. I think asking more questions, stop telling and selling and start asking more questions would solve a lot of communication issues. Draw people out.
Yeah.
Very simple.
I think it is. I think it's great advice. Seek first to understand. In order to be understood, I think is how Dr. Stephen R. Covey taught me so many years ago. So that is great advice. Another thing I wanted to touch on before I hand it back to Chris for a real good question is, you've been in business for 18 years with Ask Patty, and you've been in business in some capacity for a quarter century. Clearly you've succeeded growing, you've amplified your brand, you've served a need in a way that people, share your vision and mission with others. Can you speak a little bit? We're a marketing podcast. We're all about growing business. Chris and I believe we could successfully grow any dealership in any time, and we're steadfast to prove ourselves correct. But what can you say to our viewers and listening community about how you've successfully grown your brands? What has worked for you?
Being different. I think one of the traps that marketers in this industry, in automotive, fall into is copycatting. Well, they're doing it, so I'm going to do it. They're doing this, so I'm going to do it. And templating. And I think it's really important to differentiate yourself. And that is a whole long conversation, but be different. Do not copy your competitors. In fact, it's okay to look at your competitor and see what they're doing, but don't get obsessed with your competition. You need to really be obsessed with your brand, the reactions to your brand, and what you believe in, because every company has leaders, and that turns into the mission, what we need, what we want, the personality. And again, I can only use Ask Patty as an example in this short time. But one of the things about Patty was it was different. It was this crazy little cartoon girl and this woman talking about something different. And all of our branding was very different. All of our social media, it still is. And we taught that to our clients too. Use different color schemes, be funny, make yourself different in some way, differentiate in your market, do things differently, which is really easy to do because every retail business is unique. I am close to the Galpin organization, and they differentiated very early on, Galpin Ford and the Galpin family, and they're huge. By the way, you probably don't know this, they're in one of the worst neighborhoods you could possibly be in the Los Angeles market. It's a terrible neighborhood, but everybody goes there because it's Galpin. They've built a great brand. And if you read their story and what they did to do that, they have a Galpin Automotive restaurant that you can visit while you're there. I mean, they did some really cool things to differentiate themselves. And I believe even today, they're still the largest Ford dealer in the nation.
Wow.
And they've maintained that. And they are so well known. And there was all these commercials they ran, Come to Galpin, this little cute song. It's rememberable. Be memorable.
Be memorable. So what is your social media content strategy? I think you've touched on it a few times, but like y'all do social media content marketing for your clients?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. And what is your strategy on social media? Because,
I can't give the whole strategy away, or I'd be, seriously.
But we see dealers, and dealers will just throw, like if you go to a Ford dealer, they'll just throw the Ford brand on you, or a Chevrolet, or a Nissan.
No, we don't really, honestly, we don't really use cars at all, unless it's needed in the graphic. It's a very visually different.
It's more about connecting with people, right? Social media is about connecting with your audience,
people, and grabbing their attention. And I can talk about this because I think dealers got onto this a few years ago, but I have been talking about this for years and years, is cause marketing, partnering up with charitable organizations. And they always did it, but they were embarrassed to talk about it, but they've learned it's really good for your reputation to let people know who you associate with. And, I'm not going to use breast cancer as one of those because that was just a one and done. Okay. I'm talking about the real things they do. And dealers are extraordinarily generous in their giving, supporting sport teams and supporting different charitable causes. And some of those are because a member of their staff or team or their family may have MS. And so they do a big drive for that. And it's very meaningful and it's very transparent and sincere. People believe that, especially women. And it's notable. So what do you want to become known for? Great community citizen. And then talk about that in social media and in a really real way with, maybe interviewing people about it and doing videos or talking about your fundraiser. I think that's one of my clients. I'm not going to mention it, but we took them a long way. They started with breast cancer. Now they're supporting children's cancer and they're doing year round. And that's what they're known for.
Community involvement is huge.
Very well. Yeah. So that's one thing you can do. And there's so many wonderful, meaningful charities. They could be local, or if it's a multi-location group, like many of my clients are, it could be a national charity too.
Yeah.
I think that's one way to differentiate yourself. But my word of caution is, don't do it because I suggested it. Do it because it's meaningful. And it's meaningful to your employees because it also helps on the back end. Employees, especially the younger generation and women, want to work for companies that are more than just transactions. They care about people, and they show that by doing these things out in the community.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you ask whether it's female consumers or young consumers, and I think it's just consumers in general today, I think less and less we have to qualify the younger consumer. But the decisions that they're making, either consuming products and services or where they choose, I'm using air quotes, to work so that they feel fulfilled, is all around how is this organization benefiting the community for which we serve, we reside, we live, grow, and do business. And specifically the millennials and Gen Z, in their mind, they're making this correlation between, hey, how I spend my dollars is as much about, how I impact the world. I may not have the financial resources or the time or the connections, to develop a corporate social responsibility campaign or engage in a worthy cause marketing effort. But darn it, I can make a decision to do business with ABC dealership because I think the work they're doing with women or the homeless or public schools or Susan G. Komen or whatever, that means something to me. So I can sleep better at night knowing that my purchasing decisions or the decisions to drive where I work are supported by that overall social responsibility. I think that's so important. I'm glad you touched on it. Chris and I believe it. We teach it. But it's interesting to see it from your context because I think it means a whole lot. And you buy a car every 3, 5, 10 years for some folks, and that's a huge purchase. And if you can make a decision based on the dealership that's doing the best in your community, brand aside, even that's saying something, right?
Yeah, and actually, there are statistics behind women choosing to put their dollars in companies that support causes that they believe in. So there is a cause marketing association, and I belonged to it for years. And there's a lot of statistics around what the criteria is to do business and to have what I call lifetime relationship with a retail business. Like, why do you want to shop there? What are the reasons? And cause is a big one with women. And experience, of course, all of these revolve around reputation management and who you want to be when you grow up. So it's all there. But I also just, this is something that bothers me because I have a bunch of teenage grandchildren who don't want to drive cars. They don't want to drive cars. And
they've been forced.
they've been forced by their parents to take driving lessons and drive
Is,
a car.
isn't it crazy? I mean, at 14 or 15, we were ready to get our learners. We were there on the day. Today, like my fiance's 18, she was, her daughter was almost 18 before she got her learners. They don't want to learn. They can take Uber.
I stole my dad's car when I was 14 and was driving around the neighborhood. Okay. I'm telling the truth. Having a vehicle spelt freedom.
That's right.
And I understand why, but it's crazy making. And so finally, all of them have permits. But my oldest granddaughter, she was the worst. She didn't get her driver's license till she was almost 20 because they just said, we're not driving you anymore. So I'm curious because these are all they're moving into this is the next level, what they're going to do about that. It's an interesting thing. And it's funny to me. And my mind, I'm really funny. I'm like a marketer, by the way, is not someone who markets. A marketer is someone who watches the trend, someone who listens and observes. And so I watch a lot of, I'm always watching to see what the new trends are overall, how that's going to fit in to Ask Patty, how we could deliver that to our customers and Ask Patty. And I have little fantasies about, we have to teach this population why they need a car. This doesn't mean the same thing to them.
Well, speaking of driving, I've heard you have an interesting hobby. Tell us about your about that hobby.
Yeah, about 10 years ago now, I got involved with the Rebel Rally. It is an all-woman off-road rally, and there's a twist. It was set up to be done in vehicles right off the showroom floor, right? Because a lot of people, women included, will buy, a Jeep, for instance, and never take it off-road, which was just sad. But also, again, to help women have an experience off-roading, sands them in so that they can build their own sense of accomplishment without judgment. By the way, this rally is a huge success. So I started off-roading and fell in love with it. It's just so much fun. I bought my first Jeep more recently, and I've gotten involved in other
what are you driving now?
Off-roading. Huh?
What are you driving now?
I'm still driving a Jeep. And
okay,
here's my claim to fame, because I started doing this right before my 60th birthday. I think I was 58. This past year, I've been to Moab before. Moab, Utah is kind of like the Super Bowl of off-roading for off-roaders. It has a lot of difficulty. And I did Hell's Revenge.
Wow.
Just for any off-roader. And it's really... And
that's where you're climbing the rocks and going down. Well, you've got to send us some photos. We got to see some photos of you in action.
It was so fun.
How big is yours? I'm sure it's modified, jacked up. I mean, tell us about your vehicle.
You're going to crack up. So I own the smallest Jeep made. It's a Jeep Renegade.
Okay.
It's called a Desert Trailhawk. It is a full 4x4. Obviously, it can't do. The only modification is I bought bigger tires, BFG tires, that better for off-roading. And here's what it's like when I go off-roading with everybody else who has everything. They've got 35s on and they're lifted.
Yeah.
We're all on radios that are always going, I can't believe she's doing that. Oh my God. So off-roading, like anything else, some of it is the vehicle.
Yeah.
Much of it is the driver. And understanding the limits of your vehicle. Like, I'm not going to take that angle because I know I can't do that. So it's been a lot of fun for me.
You got to have a lot of nerve though. You got to have nerves. You got to have a lot of nerve to do it, because going up some of that stuff looks pretty scary. My fiance's friends, they have a Jeep club, and I can't get in there yet because I have a 4x4, but it's not a Jeep. So I got to wait until I get the off-road equivalent to
It's
join
so
the.
much fun. And you know what? I've done a lot of it over the last years. More and more, I'm doing it. This year, I did. This past year, I really dove in full force. But
That's awesome.
the thing about why would I do that is about the fear factor. And I'll say another one of my famous sayings: "How you are in one way is how you are in all ways." And the Rebel Rally and what I have been doing for years, and hindsight tells me, like whitewater boating and motorcycling. I wrote them on the back, but I went to Sturgis this past year. It was a 3,000-mile round trip on the back of a KTM.
Wow.
I know.
3,000 miles?
Because how you are in one way is how you are in always. And what happens when you go out and do that and experience that and then get more and more accomplished, it translates back into the rest of your life. It's not separated. So I've done a lot of that over the years. I should probably teach a class on this. And I encourage people to go out and do things that make them afraid.
I think you could teach a class on it.
Yeah. I think that's an episode too. Jiminy Christmas. Absolutely.
But that's what it's so fun. I will send you, if you go to my Facebook page, it's my personal Facebook, it's just filled with off-roading stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got to see it. Sounds fun.
Chris, do you have any final questions for Jody before we wrap?
Well, I mean, I think she's answered most, but I mean, I'll wrap it up with a question that she's mentioned a few times. And Jody, what do you want to be known for?
I want to be known for an influencer that helped the automotive industry go inclusive companies. Period. That's what I want to be known for. I think I already am.
I think you're right. Well, Jody, listen, on behalf of Chris Snellgrove and myself, Bill Courtwright, the entire team here at Reputation Sensei and Digital Media Nation, we would like to express sincere gratitude for your graciousness, the time you spent with us this afternoon, the joy you brought to the episode, all the wisdom, the experience, the knowledge. It certainly wasn't lost on us. We can't wait to read the comments from all the listeners and viewers as they're better for having spent 20 or 30 minutes learning from you. Jody, thank you so much.
Thank you. Jody. It was an honor and a privilege. Thank you so much.
That's all for this episode of the Sensei Playbook. May these strategies help you build a powerful business roadmap and dominate the online marketplace right now. Be sure not to miss another episode jam-packed with valuable advice from our marketing martial artists, Bill and Chris, by subscribing to the podcast at podcast.reputationsensei.com. Don't forget to share with your friends and fellow entrepreneurs who also aspire for massive business success. Thank you for listening. Until next time.